Hey, everybody knows all guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0 are brought to us by the official beer of the program. Of course, we're talking Johnny Cuba, European roots with a Caribbean soul, a refreshing German lager in a can. You got to make sure you always drink responsibly after you pick up a new six-pack of Johnny Cuba. Your local Sedanos, Presidente, Winn-Dixie, Fresco y Mas, and of course, don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. Joining us here, looking very tranquilo this morning, is our pal, host of my favorite radio show. Everybody knows that. SiriusXM Mad Dog Radio, Morning Men, Evan and Babchick and Willie Colon. Good morning to you, Evan. How are you? Hello.
Good, Zaz. How are you?
I'm good. I got some fun stuff that I want to talk about with you first before we get to the crux of everything here. And that, of course, is everything that is going on or not going on with the Miami Heat and Damian Lillard. First up, so I woke up this morning, I'm listening to you guys, and we're talking about, now, of course, Morning Men every morning from 6 to 9. Now, I'm listening to you guys, and you know, you're talking about the U.S. women's national team. They had a draw last night, 0-0. Carly Lloyd, very angry about the celebrating afterward. Very disappointing, but they are advancing. You had a great conversation about, okay, the game's at 3 a.m. because the games are in Australia. So that's like 4 p.m., over there, their local time. But it's 3 a.m. here. I obviously did not watch a second of it. But you had a great conversation. Do you get up for the game at 3 a.m. or do you stay up for the game at 3 a.m.? And I am very, very steadfast in you have to get up for the game at 3 a.m. And I know your partners were saying you got to stay up. But the main thing for me is you get up for the game, because if you stay up, you're not enjoying the game. The whole game is a struggle to keep your eyes open. You're on the couch, you're walking around, maybe you're eating a box of Cheez-It, just trying to stay awake. It's a miserable experience. If you get up, okay, you had a little bit of sleep, maybe only 4 hours, but that's not going to be a problem until the end of the day. You'll be able to enjoy the game. You know what I'm saying?
100% agree with you. 100%. Now, here's the thing. There's some caveats here. I wake up really early anyway, right? So that's like an hour earlier for me. It's not that bad, right? You did the mornings forever. That I don't know what time you woke up, but let's just say it's an hour or two earlier. It's not that bad, right? It's not average everyday, person is getting up at what, 7:30, 8 o'clock, around our age, working parents, so to speak. And I know not everybody is around our age or a parent listening, but let's just say average time waking up, let's call it between 7 and 8:30. That's a long time before you normally wake up for average everyday person. But I totally agree with the overall premise that you had, because I even do this, and this is going to sound pathetic, but I dread Sunday Night Football. Dread it. I hate it. And the reason I hate it, and even though the NFL is dominant and king, we get it. And to do what you and I do, you've got to watch Sunday Night Football. It's a big thing. But I've been watching football all day. I probably eat more on Sundays than I normally would eat. I'm exhausted. And no matter what the game is, I am hoping it's a blowout in the first quarter so I can go to sleep. I'm rooting against the game in general. So you're 1,000% right. If you're making it through and you're like, oh my God, all right, normally I go to bed, let's say average everyday person that wakes up between 7 and 8:30, they're probably going to bed at 11, let's call it. That's staying up 4 hours past your normal bedtime.
Just for the start.
And then to start watching the game.
Yeah.
That is awful.
Awful.
That's awful.
Yeah.
Get up. And getting up tells me something. You put in an effort. Staying up means you're having a few extra Johnny Cubas and away you go. Right?
That's
that to me, which is not a bad thing. I understand that. ZASLOW Show 2.0. Let's go. But you get the overall point here. I think you got to get up, not stay up.
Excellent point. All right, now I need to bring you in a conversation that I'm having here today on ZASLOW Show 2.0. So I'm taking my boys. We're going in September. Oh, so that's next month now. Today's August 1st. So we're going next month to Fort Worth, Texas. I'm taking them to see Pearl Jam. All right, we're going to see Pearl Jam. My younger one's never been. My older one's been a couple times. It'll be the first time the three of us, we're all going together. It's going to be the greatest night of my life. So we're going to Texas to see Pearl Jam. I got to buy the flights. All right. So I need to buy 3 airline tickets. Here's the thing, Evan. All right. A regular ticket, like American, Dallas is a hub for Americans, lots of American flights. It's not it's not a bad price. It's like $220 a ticket. That's affordable ticket. That's not a bad price. Okay. Spirit is charging $75 round trip a ticket. What do I do, Evan? I don't want to fly Spirit, but I mean, come on. It's $75 a round trip ticket. What am I doing here?
So here's how you look at this. First of all, I'm not going to take a shot at any airline because if Spirit wants to sponsor the ZASLOW Show 2.0, I'm sure he'll be flying Spirit every day of the week.
I'll use that Super Saver card. I'll get right on board.
So here's the question. How much is it worth it to you to have an enjoyable flight? Probably, 2.5 hours from Miami to Texas? How much is it worth it to you?
I mean, I got my iPad. I'm going to watch a movie.
What if they don't have internet on the flight?
I would prepare for that. I would download the movie in advance. So it's on the iPad.
Times 3.
Yep.
Times 3. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of work. So now I'm putting in a lot of work, right? How many hours am I putting in just to get ready for the flight?
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm downloading on my iPad. I'm downloading on one son's iPad. I'm downloading on another son's iPad. Now, key to that, as always, you got to have the backup scenario. Delayed on the plane. Delayed in the air. All of a sudden, your iPad, for whatever reason, doesn't work. Runs out of power. You spill something on it. What do we do? What's our second string? You're not bringing a book, all right? You're not sitting there with The Winner Within and Pat Riley that you're reading for the 17th time, Zach. You can't do that. So that is how I look at it. There's too much time to prep for that flight and not enough backup options. Very key on flights. I am literally sitting next to, I can try to find, I got it right here, a folder that I have ready to bring on every flight that I go on. You know what's in that folder? Printed out articles or magazines that I have not read from years worth of stuff that I have not read. I have a just in case. You get the phone, you get the computer or iPad, you have whatever's there, and you need a backup option. I don't think there's enough backup options in Spirit. I go with American. It's not worth $150 to not have. I'll pay $150 to have a good flight.
Times 3. 150 times 3.
I've heard about ZASLOW Show 2.0. You can afford it.
All right, so this is a very big thing that's going on in my head the last few days.
By the time the $75 flight will be $1,000. So make a decision. Like a vault.
Because my older son, when I told him, hey, we're going to fly Spirit, it's $75 a flight, he thinks we're flying on the wing. He doesn't think we have a seat. He thinks we're on the outside holding on for dear life.
He may be right.
All right. You gave me something to think about. All right. So the big news, of course. Now, you were talking about it over the weekend, of course. Now, Evan hosts a national show, but is very open about being a huge Miami Heat fan. All right. So Evan represents the Miami Heat on a national level. Like I said, SiriusXM Morning Men every morning, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9. And you were on over the weekend. You were yelling about the NBA memo that was sent out to the 30 teams. You were on with Gout Seiler on SiriusXM NBA Radio. You're repping the Heat fan, man. You're angry about this memo that was sent out. So let's talk about that. And I'll tell you my just general stance on it. I understand the NBA sending the memo out there. I just think it sucks that they're finally saying enough is enough, and it involves our favorite team. I don't think the NBA is picking on the Miami Heat. I think that the situation is shitty because it involves our team. And now is when Adam Silver finally decides, all right, enough is enough. Go ahead.
That's what I said. And I don't know why my Heat homerism, which I am a Heat homer, but I don't know why that plays any factor into this. Because what I said on the air this weekend on NBA Radio with Brian Gelso, NBA Weekend, 7 to 10 Eastern on Saturdays, was that I think it's understandable that the league would want to do this. I think where the league is probably off in their assessment is I think the modern day NBA player signs a contract with the NBA, not with the team. Jaylen Brown signs a 5-year, $304 million contract. The Celtics are currently the team that has the ability to offer him that. That contract is honored by all 30 teams if he is acquired by way of a trade to any of them, right? It's not like normal everyday walk of life. Whatever it is, you get paid for ZASLOW Show 2.0. If all of a sudden you go up to our station in West Palm and start working there, whatever you get paid is not transferred to West Palm, ESPN West Palm, and Good Karma Brands to then pay for that. It's whatever you negotiate separately, right? This is the difference that the league, I think, has to understand. Dame Lillard signs a 5-year, $270 million contract with the whatever the contract was with the Blazers, right? And so everybody's mad, like, oh, wow, he signed that deal. He should be, they were loyal to him. He should be loyal to them, et cetera. No, modern NBA player looks at it as I'm signing a contract that's available to me at the time that it's available to me for the highest price that has to be honored by any of the 30 teams that I am on. So in this specific case, my main thing was if you're the NBA and you want to crack down on this and you want to say if you sign the contract, stop publicly asking out, fine. Why this guy? Because simultaneously, James Harden is doing this for the third time. Simultaneously, James Harden has only said, I want to play for the Clippers, or at least it's been reported. Simultaneously, James Harden is doing this after he quit on multiple teams, both on and off the court. It's been well documented. We can watch him play basketball and know that is not the version of him that we are used to seeing. So why this guy who spent a decade plus in an organization, giving max effort to that organization, and last year was shut down by that organization so they don't win more in order to try to get Victor Wembanyama? Where was the memo to the Portland Trailblazers for tanking? Because that is what they did. I don't even blame them for doing that. I am totally fine with the NBA cracking down on this concept. Now, I think it's actually really good for the NBA, despite if you don't like it or I don't like it and they were old school. What the ask out and the trade request has done is made the NBA a year-round business. We are sitting here on August 1st talking about one of the best players in the sport and what team he's going to be on next year. And next year starts in like a month and a half. When we were growing up, not to make us sound old, these conversations did not happen about the NBA at this time. We didn't even talk NFL. It was just baseball, right? At this time of year. And so I think this has actually helped the league. My beef is just why him? Why is he? Kevin Durant did it twice to the Phoenix Suns. Twice. Okay? I mean, Anthony Davis told teams, I'll play for you for the rest of the season, but I'm leaving after that. Why now with this specific guy?
Do you think the agent regrets any of the way that he has handled this so far?
Well, I think Barry Jackson of Miami Herald is such a phenomenal reporter and so elite at what he does that I think him getting Aaron Goodwin, Dame's agent, on the record ended up hurting Dame. It's not Barry's fault, but if Aaron Goodwin doesn't say that publicly about his only request to be in Miami, I don't know how you can do the memo, because where's the evidence that any of the reporting is? I'm not saying it's not true, but where's the evidence that it is? It's not like Adam Silver's calling Aaron Goodwin or Dame Lillard saying, did you say this? Because they're not quoted as saying it anywhere. So if all-time great reporters like Adrian Wojnarowski and Shams Charania, ESPN and The Athletic respectively, are reporting this, or Chris Haynes, who's very tied into Dame's camp of TNT, if any of them are reporting that, so you can't send a memo based on reporting. You can send a memo based on factual information with quotes, which is what Aaron Goodwin had to Barry Jackson.
Are we actually supposed to believe, like, is it possible? Because I read another report yesterday from Barry Jackson, the Miami Herald, that the Blazers are still disinclined to sit down and have a serious conversation with the Miami Heat. Like, are we actually to believe, like, the Blazers have not sat down and had an actual conversation with the Miami Heat?
I'm not going to doubt Barry, but that seems crazy to me because I almost seem like this is the kind of business where you make the rounds anyway. It's like, oh, we haven't talked to in a couple of weeks. Like, you think about like a friend, right? Like, oh, I haven't talked to this person in a little bit. Like, let me hit them up on text, see what's up with them. Like, you probably do that every day. I probably do that every day, right? There's 29 friends, so to speak, that each of these teams have. You know, they just like, oh, we haven't spoken to the Hornets. Like, what's up with Gordon Hayward? Could we get him maybe for Kyle Lowry? Which I know you would do and I would do. But, like, the overall, like, thought of they haven't spoken seems crazy to me because even at the highest of levels, maybe they're not. But, like, nobody within the organizations are touching base. I think that part is weird. Let me just go off on one other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Have people who hate on the Heat fans, like you and I, have they ever watched Jaime Jaquez play? Have they ever watched Nikola Jovic play? Have they ever watched Tyler Hero play? In what world is this a bad package to offer a team that has to get rid of a player now?
It's crazy.
That is 30 plus years old.
It's crazy.
That is making inordinate money, and that stands at 6'2". The entire league is looking for players that are between 6'6" and 6'11", that are elite two-way players that make in the $25 to $40 million range. Dame Lillard, that's in their 20s. Dame Lillard is over 30, makes over 40, and stands below 6'6" by a lot.
Yep.
In what world is it that you're offering 2 first-round picks, Jaquez and Jovic, as well as 3 or 4 other ones potentially, and a guy that in his 4-year career in Tyler Hero has averaged basically 20 points almost all the years he plays, enough to average 20 points. His team's been to the NBA Finals twice, Eastern Conference Finals the other time, played in the finals as like a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, and won 6th Man of the Year, has bulked up this offseason, clearly if you look at his Instagram. And as Sam Mitchell, who hosts with Geltzy on NBA Radio, told me 2 weeks ago when I was filling in, maybe the best point of them all, he's hung with the Heat for 4 years. This is an organization that is not inclined historically to play young players right away. Sam's point was, can we acknowledge that Tyler Hero not only has played with them, they've invested in him financially and with their time. And what Portland has done in downselling Hero is one of the dumbest things that I could imagine. Why not put out there, hey, this is a really good player. If you want him from us, you got to give us 2 first-rounders and then settle at 1 or whatever it is from Brooklyn or Toronto, whatever it may be. I understand I'm looking at this through Heat glasses. I get that. I get the fact that this is not, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But guess what? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wasn't Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at the time that the Thunder got him. And one more thing, for all the people that are saying, oh, Tyler Hero is not Tyrese Maxey, just be clear in how you phrase that. Tyler Hero may not become the player that Tyrese Maxey becomes. Tyler Hero to date has had a significantly better NBA career than Tyrese Maxey. It's not debatable.
Yep.
So all of this around the Heat, is this the greatest offer in sports history? No, I'm not saying it's not. It is. But, I hope Portland doesn't want Tyler. I hope they don't want Jaime Jaquez. Because I think, I don't know if Jovic can contribute next year. I actually think Jaquez can.
Yep.
Right away.
Yep.
So you don't want him? Fine. He'll take him. What are we talking about here?
Now, I don't believe that the league has an agenda against the Miami Heat. But true or false, that offer, that supposed offer that you're talking about here, 3 or 4 picks, Tyler Hero, maybe Jaquez and or Jovic. If that offer was coming from Brooklyn or New York or Boston or Los Angeles or Philadelphia, would the rest of NBA fans and NBA media be saying this is a shit package? The answer is no.
Yeah, probably not.
That part is where I think there's a bias.
I think Boston,
I don't think the league is a bias, but I think fans and media, major bias against the Heat. Major.
Yeah, but I don't want to say it's our fault, but I would say what we are as Heat media, and I'm not covering the team. I used to be at a lot of the games, obviously, when I lived in Florida full time. But I would say that we are more open as media members about our fandom of the team than other markets are. And
this is true?
In my opinion, yeah. This is very inside media that fans don't care about, so I'll keep it quick. There's a lot of people that still, I don't claim to be a journalist at all, right? And that may be oh my God, how could you be on the radio and not be a journalist? Because I'm letting you know my opinions. I'm letting you know my biases. I'm doing a lot of things, and biases in terms of sports, not in terms of life. But I'm letting you know things about myself, and my goal is to let you know about myself and what my interests are. And my goal is, as a talk show host, to be as much a part of the story as I can be, as are my other 2 co-hosts, and Mike and Willie, that it's our job to be a part of the story, to tell stories, to create stories around us. That's not journalism. That's entertainment.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be entertainers. And so part of that is expressing fandom. I love the Miami Heat. Watch all 82 games. I do. And so for me, expressing the fandom is something that I'm going to do. I think I'm not the only one that's like that, obviously. So I think we have more people in the media that are louder about their honesty than other markets.
Okay. I never thought of that. Do you believe, number one, the memo that went out over the weekend, does it change anything on Damian Lillard's side? And number two, do you think Damian Lillard feels that the Blazers, and I guess specifically Joe Cronin, lied to him leading up to this process?
Well, I don't know what was said to him, so it's hard to say yes on the lying part. I have no idea what was actually said to him. In terms of what I think it could do, I have a weird feeling this speeds it up. And I understand how strong the Heat organization is. I understand how steadfast they are in being unapologetically themselves, which is one of the reasons that I just absolutely love them and envy the way in which they operate. It's really hard in life to just unapologetically be who you are, regardless of the fallout. And I don't think anyone would debate that Pat Riley is unapologetically who he is, regardless of what dopes like you and I would say, right? So with that all said, I do wonder if the Heat felt like we're going to get this done ultimately, if there's any part of them that looks at this and just has that moment of, are we sure we're going to be allowed to get this done? Are we sure that there's not going to be ridiculous tampering investigations again? Are we sure that there's not going to be legal approval issues? Maybe we should speed up this process, right? And maybe Portland realizes, hey, wow, if nobody made us a good offer off of that memo, kind of opening the door and opening the window for other teams coming in, then they're never going to make us a good offer.
Right. That's a good point.
Because that was the opening. That was the opening. Like, hey, Dame, you better accept where you're going because the league may have something to say about that. So that's one of the thoughts that I had off of this was maybe this actually speeds up the process. And that said, that happened Friday and we're sitting here on Tuesday.
That's a good point, though. If other teams were going to jump, like the league is doing everything they can to get other teams to jump in. If no one's jumping in.
Not get them to Miami, other bidders in the mix.
Yeah.
This is the other thing I don't understand. So you now work for yourself, okay? Mm-hmm. Well, you work for your advertising partners and your fans, but in general, you employ yourself. So I don't, right? If I were to say to my boss, any of my bosses, here's how I feel. Here's where I'd like to go in life. Here's how I'd like to get there. I'm just being honest with you. I would hope I'd have a boss that would say, thank you. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for being direct. That doesn't mean we're going to abide by all your wishes, right? The thing that I don't think is fair is Dame Lillard gets ripped for just telling his bosses, here's the place I want to go. They don't have to trade him to Miami. Like, they can trade him wherever the hell they want to trade him.
Well, but the point is that he did it. The point is that he essentially did it publicly.
No, because he mentioned Brooklyn too, and he mentioned other teams.
Yeah, but once the whole thing really got going, where he actually requested the trade.
Right. So, okay, but he's being honest and he's being direct. And so, like, hey, let me tell you all the places I don't want to go just for the sake of show. I think this whole thing is discouraged loyalty, and that's sad. I think if you think players aren't loyal to teams now, look at what's going on with Dame Lillard. The one guy who was loyal beyond beliefs was there for a decade plus, and now the league is coming down on his camp for what's going on here.
Well, that's the weird part. I mean, you look at some of these other guys, okay, and what's happened the last few years. Like, the tipping point for the league was, you know, they're tarring and feathering Damian Lillard in the middle of the town square. Like this is the example that they're going to make is with this guy.
Yeah, that by the way, and this hopefully will explain the I think the lack of bias in this specific instance. If they're going to send a memo, how the hell do you not send a memo to the Minnesota Timberwolves and Jimmy Butler for whatever the hell went on there? That was a disaster. Mm-hmm. I mean, it benefited us as Heat fans.
Well, Harden in Houston. Ben Simmons is doing practices with a cell phone out of his sweatpants pocket. That doesn't get a memo? Yeah, that kind of stuff's bullshit. I'm with you, man.
I don't understand why now. It doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, that part bothers me. Do you have a beef with Adam Silver? I think he's the softest commissioner in sports. And I make the analogy of what we're dealing with right now. Adam Silver is the parent of a teenager who wanted to be best friends with the teenager instead of being a parent. And now doesn't understand how the kid is run amok and is not in control.
I understand what you're saying, but he's not the parent. And so I think strategically what he's done in a player empowerment era is actually really smart. I think he is very much putting himself in a position to be partners with the players and the owners, the governors. I think that I believe in partnership. I don't think Roger Goodell is in partnership with the players in any way, shape, or form. Right? Rob Manfred, I actually think, is a little bit better than people say, but he's not in partnership with the players, like in any way, shape, or form. The difference is Adam Silver has an and between his name and the player's name, and most commissioners have a versus. the ultimate is, can the end lead you to a place of delivering news that your partner would not want to hear and the partner understanding it? And if you feel like, hey, Silver has the end, it's Adam Silver and the players, but anytime there's a tough circumstance, he hasn't been able to use that relationship to have some sort of guidance, discipline, impact, well, then that would be the critique. Mm-hmm. I think strategically he's doing it the right way in the world that we're currently in.
Like, why don't we get this with the other sports? Why don't we get the NFL?
Because they don't look at themselves as partners with the players.
No, but I'm saying, like, why don't we get this with the players in the other sports? NFL, MLB, NHL, the major sports here in North America. We don't get the players who are refusing to play, demanding to get traded here, signing contracts and, you know, asking out in a couple of, it's the only league where this happens, Evan.
Yeah, well, I think most businesses, most organizations, most cultures follow the lead of their best player, right? So credit or blame, this is the LeBron James era of the NBA. And LeBron is never asked out. He's always left by way of free agency or sign and trade. People always forget he was technically traded to the Heat, did not sign with the Heat, was traded to the Heat. And LeBron James, the switching teams, taking my talents to era, has enabled other players to do this. Here's the counter, though. And I agree with you. It's not always great. But imagine if Shohei Ohtani asked out. Wouldn't the trade deadline today be infinitely more interesting?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I actually think it's hurt baseball that they don't have players that do this. As crazy as that sounds, I'm telling you, as much as you hate it relative to how we grew up and how we would operate,
I hate it.
It helps the sport. How many times a day do you refresh Twitter wondering about Dame news?
Can I ask you about that real quick? How stupid do you, because I feel stupid. How stupid do you feel? It was like 4 weeks ago, the day that Damian Lillard asked for the trade. How many times that day were we refreshing our Twitter feed, hoping that
every day,
getting the tweet that he's been traded to the Heat? We're a month later. We're no closer.
Portland signed a guy to a two-way deal the other day. I saw Shams and it said Portland. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. It's happening.
So stupid. The day the request was made, we thought it was going to happen that night. We're a month later. We're nowhere near it happening yet.
But we're following the NBA as if we're in season right now. And that's why I'm saying you could not like it. And I'm not saying you're wrong. And I probably would tend to agree with you. But I do think it's helped the NBA become a year-round sport. It was not back in the day.
Like, I'm very hypocritical. I mean, I raised my hand. I hate what Damian Lillard is doing. I'm good with it because it's potentially going to help my team. So, like, I'm okay with that part. But if it wasn't involved in my team,
but Dame, you got to look at it differently. Dame and Harden, I think, are so different, which is why I don't understand why Dame is the target, right? Dame said what it seems like on the surface is, hey, I want to stay with you forever. I understand I signed the contract, but I'd love for us to do X, Y, and Z. Do you think you can do it? And if they don't do that, that doesn't mean he can leave because he's not a free agent, but it means in the modern day league that LeBron James has created, he can ask out.
Mm-hmm. They are different, but the problem that I would have if I'm a Blazer fan right now is Damian Lillard, by saying I only want to play for Miami, has really hurt my team's chances of getting the best. It doesn't mean they can't get a good deal for Miami because I think it would be a good deal, but it has hurt their chances of getting the best possible deal if you were able to have at least a few teams bidding. And that's the part where if I'm a Blazer fan right now, I'm pissed off.
In theory, but not definitely. One other thing. I've thought about this a lot. You know, it's never happened to the Heat.
I know.
What's going on? And I always think, like, are we really ever going to see a player say to Pat Riley, I want out? We've seen a player leave in LeBron, right?
But he's even the only one. He's the only one who was left when they wanted to keep him. That's crazy.
Is there an PJ Tucker? But okay, they didn't want to go to a certain.
That was the Heat's choice of not giving the money.
Yeah, I'm nitpicking on this. I'm just saying we've never experienced Jimmy Butler going to the Heat and saying, I want out.
Never.
Bam, it's so hard to comprehend the thought of one of these guys. Because in my head, as soon as that happens, all of a sudden, those guys are at home. They hear a knock on the door and Udonis Haslem shows up. It's like, I'm sorry, what did you say to Pat?
No, I've thought about it many times. We've never had a player demand to leave our team. And the only time a guy left and we wanted to keep him was LeBron. It's the only when all things are equal. We didn't want to give PJ Tucker the money. We weren't willing to give Alonzo Mourning the money. When all things were equal, it's only happened one time. And Dwayne Wade, we weren't willing to give him the money. LeBron's the only one who has ever left the team.
You know what's interesting about looking back at the Dwayne Wade thing? I understand that everybody says, hey, it could have been handled differently. I think the Heat knew if they were to bring him back, they were not going to be a championship team. And the only way they could be a championship team is to use him in a trade, and they never wanted to trade him. If you think about it logically, signing Whiteside actually created the salary cap slot.
Of course, to get Butler.
To be able to trade.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But Jimmy Butler would never have been here if they re-signed Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, maybe not.
No, because they would have not have had a salary to trade because they never would have.
Well, but also Wade may never have went to Chicago and told Jimmy how much you would love Miami one day.
Right. I mean, I hate to say this, but it kind of worked out for everybody involved.
Of course. You don't have to hate to say that. It's true. Of course. It all worked out for everybody in the end. Evan, excellent job out of you today,
good
man.
Boy. Hey, you did a good job there, Zaz.
Really good job out of you, man. Promote something. Tell everybody what you got going on. Go ahead.
ZASLOW Show 2.0. I appear every so often. Watch it here. Listen to it on your podcast, wherever you get your podcast. ZASLOW Show 2.0.
Thank you, pal. And make sure you listen to Evan, SiriusXM, Mad Dog Radio every morning, 6 to 9 a.m. It's my favorite show. Everybody knows that. Good job, Evan. Thanks a lot, pal.
Thanks.